Good evening, ma'am. My name is Lexter Jan, and this is our report. Taylorism, the conceptualist ethical framework. Reporter, Lexter Jan Omanangan and Mark Joseph Ganaden.
So hello everyone, I'm Mark Joseph Ganaden and I'm going to report about utilitarianism. So first, utilitarianism comes from a Latin word utilitas, meaning useful or usefulness. And another one is utile bonum, which means good use. So when we say utilitarianism, it is the theory of usefulness. So divisions of utilitarianism. We have two divisions of utilitarianism. The first one is hedonistic and non-hedonistic, and the second one is act and rule utilitarian. So hedonistic utilitarianism. This kind of utilitarianism was mainly proposed by two British philosophers, namely Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. So this form claims that pleasure is the only intrinsic good and pain is the only intrinsic bad. So the basic rule for this kind of utilitarianism is that the action which produces the greatest amount of pleasure is the morally correct action. Though both moral philosophers share the same hedonistic view, they also have their distinctions. So as you can see on Jeremy Bentham, it's more on quantitative differences, and for him, there's no significant difference between physical and mental pleasure. While on John Stuart Mill, it's more on qualitative differences, and for him, there's a significant difference. Non-hedonistic utilitarianism. This form rejects that view and pleasure and pain are intrinsically good and bad, respectively. This rejection comes in two different ways. So the first one is exclusive non-hedonistic utilitarianism. So in this, pleasure is not the intrinsic good, but something else. The second one is inclusive non-hedonistic utilitarianism. On this, while pleasure is an intrinsic good, there are other intrinsic good as well. So, principles of utility. This was mainly proposed by Jeremy Bentham, then followed by John Stuart Mill. This principle states that an action is right insofar as it tends to produce the greatest happiness for the greatest number. First one is act utilitarianism. The principle of utility is applied directly to every alternative act in a situation of choice. The right act is defined as the one which brings the best results or the least of bad results. The second principle is rule utilitarianism. The principle of utility is used to decide the validity of rules of conduct, moral standards or principles. A moral rule such as keeping a promise is established by evaluating the consequences of a world in which people broke promises at will, and a world in which promises are binding. Moral and immoral are defined as following or breaking the rules.
Utilitarianism holds that the most ethical choice is the one that will produce the greatest good or the greatest number. It is the only moral framework that can be used to justify military force of war. It is also the most common approach the moral reasoning used in business because of the way in which account. However, because we cannot predict the future, it's difficult to know the certain whatever Jeremy Bentham was the English philosopher, jurist, and social reformer regarding as founder of modern utilitarianism. Jeremy Bentham said, utilitarianism is an ethical framework for effective moral action. Fundamentally, it's a base quantifying good in terms of utility and attempting to maximize the quantity. Utility is often defined happiness or pleasure, although there is other variants, satisfaction of preference or preference. Utilitarianism is the framework is often defined as effort to achieve the greatest good for the greatest number. The consequentialist ethical framework, an action but that brings about more benefits than harm is good, while an action that is caused the more harm that benefits is not. The most famous version of this theory is utilitarianism, although there are references to this idea in the work of ancient philosopher. Epicurus is closely associated with English philosopher Jeremy Bentham. The importance of utilitarianism, the greatest challenge to our country economic freedom is energy. There is no other industry that has potential for shocks a greater effect on society. Clean and renewable energy being alternative to fossil fuels has become important for protecting the environment and also has enormous political and national security implication.
Thank you for watching.